Hi everyone, my name's Lindsay, and I recently returned from exploring the vibrant country of Morocco, and I want to share with you my favorite places. So here's my Morocco Top 10. With Atlantic coastlines, imperial cities, and vast desert landscapes, Morocco is one of the most underrated places in the world. From the blue city of Chefchaouen to the Medina of Marrakech, Morocco has so many places to explore. Let's start this video off in the blue city. Nestled in one of the most northern parts of Morocco near the Rif Mountains is a city called Chefchaouen, otherwise known as the Blue City. One of my biggest questions when I went to the city was, why is it painted blue? Every alley, every street is blue. While we don't know exactly, one theory suggests that the color blue was like the sky and it reminded them of God. But one thing we do know for a fact is that the city attracts visitors who love to wander the calm streets and take pictures. And in 2019, the Blue City ranked 9th in the world for having the most beautiful streets and alleys. The city's fairly small, and 2 days of wandering around the blue alleys and admiring the authentic shops was adequate for a visit. One of the things that I really liked doing was staying in the hotel that was inside the main square. The hotel was beautiful and a relaxing experience, and I loved being able to listen to the fascinating call to prayer sound that came from the mosque nearby. It's a sound that isn't normally familiar to me, but I really respect and enjoy. Now we will drive 3 to 4 hours south where we will meet Morocco's culture capital, the city of Fez. Fez is one of my most favorite cities because of the rich culture. Fez dates back to the 8th century and is considered one of the most extensive and best preserved towns in the Arab Muslim world. One of the most impressive things about Fez was the Medina, which has 26 miles of narrow alleyways. One safety precaution that I found was to hire a local guide to show me around the Medina. Because of the never-ending, twisting streets, it's so easy to get lost. And we live in a world of online maps and resources, but it's important to note that the GPS doesn't fare well inside the Medina. You could find yourself in a predicament if you try to navigate the impressive area yourself. I also really enjoyed visiting the tannery where the leather is made. And if you ask your guide to take you to a specific area of the Medina, you will get to see the men sledging through the large troughs of dye. The tanning process is fascinating to watch. I learned that the tanners use plants like roots, bark, seeds, and fruit to make the dyeing solution. For example, I learned that the yellow color of the leather comes from the pomegranate fruit. Another favorite thing I did was to visit the authentic ceramic shop. It was fascinating to watch the people paint, cut, and arrange in such an authentic way as they got the pieces ready for the showroom. Fez is also a perfect place to take home beautiful souvenirs that are handmade and good quality. The next place I visited was the city of Merzouga, and although it's a 7-hour drive from Fez, there's so many things to stop and see and do along the way. When people think about Morocco, most people think about the Sahara Desert, and Merzouga is in the heart of the desert. I decided to hire a guide while I was in Merzouga, and I'm really glad I did, because I learned about the traditions and culture and customs that date back thousands of years. I learned that the people in Merzouga come from one of the Amazigh tribes, and that the practices and traditions are still highly influential within the region today. My guide took me to the nomad village where I was able to sit and have tea with one of the families. They taught me about their lifestyle and how they move from place to place being travelers, looking for food and water for their livestock in order to survive. I also really loved my visit to the Gnawa Music Center. The musicians were originally from the sub-Saharan Africa who were brought mostly as slaves to Morocco during the 15th and 16th centuries. Now you can listen to their music live, and it dates back to the 11th century. But by far, my most favorite experience in all of Morocco was the experience where I was able to ride the camel over the sand dunes into the desert camp. I've since learned that the camel caravans played a really important role in the history of the Arabian regions, and it was fun to experience the peaceful ride. We rode the camels for about an hour, and by the end of our ride, the sun had set under the horizon. It was so incredible to see the sky start to turn black and the stars appear in the sky. And as we approached the desert camp, we had the warmest and most hospitable welcome from the desert men. And after we had settled into our tents, we came back out where an incredible traditional dinner and a fire had been prepared for us. The people at the camp enjoyed each other's company while we sat around the fire and listened to the men play their authentic Berber drums. Next, we'll make just a 45-minute drive from Merzouga to the city of Rissani, home to one of Morocco's oldest and most authentic markets. As you make your way into the city, you'll drive through the spectacular city gate. And I learned that the city of Rissani actually has a different name, with the meaning known as the Gate of the Desert or the Gate of the Sahara. Stopping at Rissani's market is a deep cultural experience. I thought it was really fascinating to see the area where the people were trading goats and sheep. Even though it caught me off guard that the goats and sheep weren't being taken home as pets, they were being taken for barbecues, for family parties and celebrations. The next stop I made was only 2 hours from Rissani, and I couldn't believe the difference in the landscape. As we entered Toudra Gorge, I was amazed at the high canyon walls. I couldn't believe how beautiful the villages were that had bright orange and teal colors that resembled that of the desert. Toudra Gorge is in the Atlas Mountains, and its high canyon walls rise almost 400 meters high. If you're lucky, you might even get to see the rock climbers high up on the cliff, as it is a world-renowned climbing crag. But if climbing isn't your thing, no doubt you'll love the thing that I chose to do. I really liked my walk along the canyon road that lined the beautiful turquoise blue river. And if you visit the gorge during the warmer months, you might see families, both nomads and visitors, lined along the riverbanks. As the evening approached, I really liked stopping at the authentic rug shop in the gorge. The owner taught me how the rugs were made, with women on the loom. He explained that in a true authentic carpet, each of the colors of the sheep's wool were dyed with plants gathered from the mountains. After about a 2-hour drive, I came to a city known to be the door of the desert. The city's name is Ouarzazate. Ouarzazate is a noteworthy location for movie sets. Movies like Mummy, Gladiator, and Game of Thrones were filmed near this picturesque desert town. I chose to spend my time at an impressive kasbah, or fortified village, called Ait Ben Hadou. The village is a beautiful UNESCO heritage site, and I learned from our guide that only 5 families or 27 people are still living inside the kasbah. Even though the kasbah has a low habitation rate, the tourism numbers are high. This results in a fortress being a place for locals to sell their goods, such as paintings, carpets, and jewelry. I really enjoyed walking to the top of the hill where there was a spectacular view overlooking the valley. I was also lucky enough to find a snake charmer who wrapped a snake around my neck. Something I wasn't sure how I felt about at the time, but it adds memories that I won't ever forget. The next city I stopped at was Marrakech. Marrakech is a city most people think of when they think of Morocco. With nearly 1 million residents, Marrakech is the 4th largest in Morocco. It's the beating heart of the country. Marrakech is known as the Red City because of the beautiful red hues of the buildings. I found Marrakech to be so vibrant that it will stimulate all of your senses at once. It's both frazzling and enchanting. I found Marrakech's beautiful medina to be navigable, but full of hustle and bustle. Not only will you want to hold on to your purse or wallet, but you will want to watch out for motorcycles whizzing by. I found out the hard way that they don't always stop or yield to pedestrians. If you love to shop for items to take home, then the souk is your spot. You will want to plan enough time to sift through the countless numbers of shops selling handmade artifacts. But one place you will want to see in the evening time is the main square located just in front of the impressive mosque. I really enjoyed the energy of the square after dark. I walked around and watching groups of families and friends play music while others performed on the street. And another thing I really loved doing was having dinner high above the square in a restaurant where I could watch the energy and the excitement from above. In addition to the rugged mountains and desert landscape, Morocco has an incredible coastline. And since I did my visit during the hot summer months, visiting the coastal town of Agadir was a must. Agadir sits on the Atlantic coast at the foot of the Atlas Mountains. One thing that my family really loved was to spend time on the beach in Agadir. Our family took time to travel a little bit north to a town called Tagzout, where we found some waves in the ocean that was perfect for beginners. We stopped at a place called Banana Surf to gear up for a day of surf lessons. I was super impressed by the store owner and the lessons that he gave. You might wonder what appropriate swimwear would be if you spend a day at the beach in Morocco. The customs seem a little bit more relaxed for tourists, but I always recommend erring on the side of modesty. Next on my itinerary is a city just 3 hours north of Agadir. It's one of my most favorite cities. It's so charming. It's a city called Essaouira. Once I arrived to the beautiful coastal town, I was surprised at how much the city exceeded my expectations. Essaouira has a reputation of having frequent high winds, and because of that, the locals didn't speak highly of the area. I didn't have a problem with the wind that day though, and I felt like the city was full of charm and wonder. Just like many Moroccan cities, Essaouira has a large, impressive fortified wall, and it was built in the 17th century under a ruler named Mohammed Abdullah. Essaouira has been a major international trading seaport that links Morocco with Europe and the rest of the world. Even though the city has strong marine winds, its neighboring island of Mogador provides protection that makes the harbor suitable. One of my favorite things to do in the coastal town was to walk around the souk. I loved admiring the blue and white buildings, and it gave me the sense that I was in Greece. I also really loved venturing to the harbor that was filled with fishermen's boats, nets, and the catches of the day. Just be advised of the smells and the dead fish on the ground. It definitely wasn't the most pleasant for the senses, but it was eye-catching to see all of the sights. For our final destination, we'll head to one of Morocco's most well-known cities, the city of Casablanca. Casablanca is home to nearly 4 million people, and it's the largest city and one of Africa's most important cities both economically and demographically. When you think of Casablanca, you might think of the popular cinema production that was shot in 1942. You might even remember the famous Rick's Cafe from the film. The popular cafe has been recreated in downtown Casablanca, but is not actually where the movie was shot. I have to admit, Casablanca was not my most favorite Moroccan city, but the Hassan II Mosque puts Casablanca on my top 10 list. That building alone is incredible, and it's the only mosque in Morocco that allows non-Muslims inside. The mosque has visiting hours, and it's one of the most impressive buildings I've ever been inside of. It only took 6 years to build, as 10,000 of the most talented craftsmen worked for 24 hours a day. The result is Morocco's biggest mosque that arguably ranks number 13 for size in the world, and it can accommodate nearly 105,000 worshippers. I absolutely loved the quiet feeling of entering the mosque as I removed my shoes and admired the beautiful interior. I was so impressed by the chandeliers and the intricate detailed craftsmanship inside the mosque. All in all, Casablanca is the perfect one-day stop. Well, that's it for my Morocco Top 10. It's one of my favorite regions in Africa, and I hope you all can give it a visit. Let me know where your favorite place in Morocco is to visit. You can find me on Instagram at Move Morocco Travel. It's Lindsay, and we'll see you later.